It is 5:15, and we do appear to have a quorum of commissioners. I think that some may still trickle in, and I did hear from Commissioner Bustos that he will be unable to join us. But it looks like we do have a quorum. So Commissioner Huber-Levy, will you do the honors of roll call, please?
Yes, I'd be delighted. We'll start with our chair, who is a little under the weather tonight, but glad that you showed up.
Here with COVID and glad to be remote.
I'm also here. And Commissioner Bocanegra.
Present.
There he is.
Commissioner Flores.
Present.
Commissioner Liu.
Present.
Commissioner Amaya Nori. May not be here yet. Commissioner Satvik Nori.
Here.
And Commissioner Rasmussen.
Here.
Commissioner Swope.
Here.
And Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
And yes, we have quorum.
Okay, great, thanks.
I move that we vote on the resolution that we should meet remotely per AB 361.
I second that.
Great, and I believe that we have that the county executive's message said that we have until March to find a place to meet in person. So the current plan, just FYI, while we're discussing this, is to meet remotely in January, but to be determined. So anyway, that will come out at a later time. Any other discussion on this?
I see that Commissioner Nori has also joined us now.
Commissioner Amaya Nori.
If we can get room 401 in building 455, that would be good, because it has more room and we've been getting more people to our meetings, and we can hope.
That's a different room than where the commission used to meet, Susan?
It's on the very first floor, so it's easy to find.
Okay. Noted. All right. Let's have a voice vote on the resolution to meet today remotely. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes to meet remotely. I think the next on the agenda is to adopt the agenda.
I move we adopt the agenda as distributed.
I second that. And I see Commissioner Rasmussen has her hand up.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw the YSC inspection report from the agenda to allow time to discuss the possibility of a December meeting. And so we do not have to break up that inspection over 2 meetings, which would require the public to watch it over 2 different videos. It would mean that we'd have to stop in the middle and not resume possibly until January. So I'd like to make a motion to pull the YSC inspection report until our next meeting.
Second.
Is there anyone who wants to second that, or do we want to discuss?
Woohoo.
I would like to discuss.
Then we
Susan,
discuss.
sorry, Susan, did you second the motion?
I seconded it, so now it's time for discussion.
Okay, got it.
And
And-
Joanna should be given the first opportunity since she's the maker of the motion.
Yeah. Any further discussion on that agenda? Anything you want to add? Anything more, Johanna?
Basically, the purpose is just so we can provide a complete package and make it easier for the public to digest, so they have the complete report. And I'm afraid that we may run out of time this evening. So that's the purpose for the motion.
Okay, anyone else want to comment? Commissioner Huber-Levy.
I appreciate that we might need more time, but I'm hoping that since we've set aside basically the bulk of the meeting for this, and we have system updates don't necessarily need to happen at the end of the meeting. I know that our Canyon Oaks inspection and I think the Camp inspection reports are fairly straightforward. that perhaps we can devote most of our time to YSC and do all the reports in one meeting, which I think would be helpful. And I know December is a tough time to get people's attention and to schedule a meeting where everyone will be here. So
Anyone else want to?
How about this?
Or comment? Yeah.
Can we see how it goes and then make a motion once it's clear that the need to carry over is real, imperative?
That seems reasonable. If we get to the point where we are looking to start the YSC inspection report out and it looks like there's not going to be 15 or 20 minutes to do that, then that would be, yeah, I'm definitely agreeable.
Yeah,
So
it might be a good idea to switch the YSC and the education reports, since we almost certainly, we want to complete as many of them as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. That was definitely my intention to do that. So we should amend the agenda for that at the very least.
So you need to take a vote on Joanna's motion, and if it's defeated,
Or
then
I can withdraw my motion based
No,
on the
you can't.
discussion. Oh,
once it's been seconded and discussion has begun, you can't withdraw it yourself.
I would, how about this? I think this is in order. I would make a motion I would move that we amend Johanna's motion to first of all, put the YSC inspection last in the order under the inspection section, which is section 5 on the agenda. And secondly, that we insert a discussion about meeting in December, right before the YSC inspection report. So add that to the agenda as well. I think
Okay,
that'll kind of cover everything. If we amend the agenda for that, amend the motion for that.
If Joanna accepts that amendment, then we can just vote on that amendment.
yes, I'll accept that amendment. I see Commissioner Bocanegra's hand is up.
Yeah, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I became disconnected. I was commuting on my way home. I just walked in, and if I understand correctly, there was a motion made because we wanted to avoid piecemeal community work for the community as well as for our youth, right? Like that's something that I advocate strongly against when it comes to piecemeal legislation that is used for reforms, and I believe that the community deserves a holistic report as well as real-time knowledge. And I believe this is a priority. We have many youth right now that are facing the prison pipeline, and they're that require immediacy from this commission to act. And I think that it would be in the best interest of not only these youth's lives that are on the line now, but also for the community to be provided the information and in its whole format, rather than the piecemeal format that we were planning on pursuing, and having to force the community to follow us for 3 months would just be a disservice for the work that we're doing. So that's what I wanted to say. And again, I apologize for becoming disconnected. And if I could place my vote, I'm not sure what we are voting on exactly right now. I heard an amendment, but if we could clarify so I can place my vote, I'd be happy to do that now.
I'll do that, Paul. Just to clarify the motion that's on the floor, as it was Johanna's motion that I amended, and the motion is that we cover the other 3 inspections first because we think we'll have time to cover those. And then we pause to see how much time we have and discuss the possibility of a separate meeting just to cover the YSC inspection report. But then if the outcome of that discussion is, it looks like we have enough time to cover the YSC inspection all in one go tonight, then we proceed with that. So that's the suggestion for that. That's the motion on the floor, is to adjust section 5 of the agenda to reflect what I just said. Okay, so if there's no more discussion on that, why don't we get a vote from the commissioners? And I think a voice vote probably will do here. So All commissioners in favor of amending section 5 of the agenda as I just described, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the inspection section, section 5 is amended. Any other discussion about tonight's agenda?
We should probably just approve the agenda as a whole now.
Yeah. All
There's-
those,
Yeah, there is a motion on the floor to approve.
yeah, all those in favor of approving the agenda as a whole as amended, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. So we'll proceed with the agenda with that change to section 5. All right, thank you, everybody. Moving on now then, in the agenda. The next order of business is to approve the minutes from the October meeting, which were attached and in the agenda packet. Any,
Approve the minutes from the October meeting.
sorry, Susan, I didn't hear you clearly. Did you make a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes from the October meeting.
I second that.
Thank you. Any discussion about the minutes, any edits or changes or anything? Okay, great. Sounds like the minutes as written are, no one has any changes. So let's vote to approve those minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed or any abstentions? No. Okay, great. The minutes from October as prepared by Commissioner Huber-Levy are adopted. Thank you. Johanna, go ahead. You're in the chat. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
You were
Emerald.
doing
I
to
just
me.
wanted to make a note. I just wanted to make a statement that I am receiving several direct messages in the chat letting me know that our agenda and links did not go out on the website this month, which I was not aware of. So we may be having people come in a little bit later. I wasn't aware of that issue.
I didn't check that either, and there may have been a mishap because of Thanksgiving. I know that Adriana from probation was trying to get that out and up on the website before Thanksgiving. Paul,
I wanted to
add
confirm
anything?
that as well, that some of the community leaders reached out earlier and asked where the agenda was, that there was no link nor agenda on our website. But there are community members here today that wanted to be a part of this. So I'm not sure how.
So,
For the immediate, I can make a Google Doc of the agenda and link it here if
I
community
think we can.
members.
I think we can also add a document to the chat, right?
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you need to make a Google Doc. I think we can take the PDF and add it.
Yes, off the computer.
Johanna, do you have the PDF? And can you, or do you want me to? Maybe I can do that.
Yeah, I do not have it up.
Okay,
do have it.
let me.
I can do this.
Amaya's got it. Amaya's got it. It's in there.
Okay.
All right, great. Okay, good. The agenda and the whole agenda packet. So that includes a couple of the inspection reports that we're going to review tonight. Johanna and Paul, does that? I know that link was not up earlier, but does that take care of your concerns?
It should, and we did post it out on our social media accounts, but I was just wanted to make a record of that. Thank you.
Okay, Paul? Sound good? Oh,
Yes,
see
I
it.
just wanted to put that on the record as well in case there was expectations of other people arriving. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and there was a lot to absorb in that agenda packet too. So sorry about that not getting out. All right, there it is. So let's keep moving because we do have a lot to cover tonight. with the inspection reports. And but we're going to pause right now, as we always do at this point, to ask if there are any members of the public that would like to make a comment, make public comment on an item that is not on the agenda. Is there anything that members of the public would like to bring to the attention of the commission that's not already on the agenda? Oh, I see Miguel Garcia. You'd like to make a public comment?
Yes, Chairman, my name is Miguel Garcia. I'm with the Office of Youth and Community Restoration. We're just thankful for the invitation to join this meeting today, and we appreciate the dialogue that's having. So just that comment, appreciate it.
Welcome, Miguel. It's good to see you, and we're always glad to have the communication from the OICR and to have you present at our meetings. Any other members of the public who wanted to make a comment, aside from maybe introducing yourself in the chat? Okay. I will, as long as we were doing some introductions of non-commissioners, I just wanted to take a minute to welcome Nadia Han, who maybe didn't know that I was going to introduce her, but as we know, Sharon Cho from the District Attorney's Office was elected to a judgeship, and so her replacement is Ms. Han. So Ms. Han, I just wanted to say welcome and to let the other commissioners know that you're here.
Thank you, Mara. Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving along. And section 3 of our agenda is a couple of administrative items for the commission. The first of which was required in our December meeting, which is that we elect our commission officers for the following calendar year. And for that, since I'm up for election, I'm going to turn over this agenda item to Commissioner Wilson.
Yes, hi. So the nominating committee has the following slate, which it proposed at the last meeting: for chair, Monroe LeBuise; for co-vice chair of administration, for that to be shared between Wesley Liu and Amaya Nori; and for co-vice chair of membership, for that to be filled by Karen Hubbard-Levy. And so I make a motion to accept this slate for the 2023 year. Do I have a second?
You don't need a second.
Oh, great.
Oh, because it comes from a committee.
People who accepted the nominations.
Yes, all have accepted. Oh, we have to ask them here. Okay.
No. The fact that they accepted the nominations means, or they are seconding it. And the purpose of a second is to have more than one person who wants to discuss any particular subject.
Perfect. Okay, now what's next, Susan?
You
I
asked
think
if there are any
we would call for if there's any discussion or comment from commissioners on this.
further nominations.
And just while I was speaking, I just wanted to note that I think that you said that the vice chair of membership, when you introduced it, was a co-vice chair, which I don't think you meant to say, right? Like the vice chair of membership.
So that, yeah, I debated this. Technically, that position is a co-vice chair
Oh, I
to
see.
the administration commission.
Got it.
It's just confusing.
Got it.
So you need to ask if there are any further nominations and then close nominations and take a vote.
Are there any? I'm not so good with this part of the commission work. Are there any other nominations? Okay, with that, I am closing nominations and we should take a vote. Is it it's a 1-by-1 vote? Yes, right?
I think this should be a roll call, yeah.
You can vote on them as a slate because none of them, there's no contested office.
Okay,
Right,
so
But go ahead. Commissioner Wilson, my suggestion is that we do a roll call vote for the whole slate.
okay, wonderful. So to that end, I'm doing a roll call vote for the whole slate. So Monroe LaBuise, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of the
Susan,
slate.
Susan Swope,
Aye.
Satvik Nori,
Yes.
Rebecca Flores. Aye. Johanna Rasmussen,
Aye.
Karen Hubert Levy,
Aye.
Wesley Liu,
Aye.
Paul Bocanegra,
Aye.
Amaya Nori,
Aye.
and I think that's everyone. Oh, and me. Aye.
All right, the motion passes. We have motion passes unanimously. Correct, Commissioner Wilson?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. We have our officers for 2023 and congratulations to everybody. Let's move on to another, the next item on the agenda, which also relates to membership. And to that end, the first thing I wanted to bring to everyone's attention is that Commissioner Satvik Nori this fall was elected to the school board of the Sequoia Union High School District, right? I have that right. I have the right name. Congratulations, Satvik. And there, so that sort of raised the question of would he continue to serve on this commission or not after now having new responsibilities. So I'll turn it over to him to let us know his plans.
Yeah, so I'm keenly interested in serving on both commissions, and I talked with Monroe and the district, and we don't foresee there being any problems as of now.
That's great news.
Great to hear. So
Congratulations.
congratulations,
Thank
Satvik,
you.
and we're of course looking forward to still having you on the commission next year. Commissioner Rasmussen, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to make a note that Commissioner Nori is very humble, but he actually made history. He's the youngest person ever to be elected into that position. So it's quite extraordinary. So congratulations, Satvik.
Yeah, congratulations, Satvik. Fantastic. We're very proud.
Thank you.
This commission is very proud. All right. Fantastic. Okay. And then there was one other membership update that Commissioner Flores wanted to update us on. So Rebecca, turn it over to you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am expecting my first child March 2023. So I will be taking a leave of absence for about a year, effective January 2023. I will miss you all, but I have mommy duties to attend to. And it's new to me, so exciting stuff. But just wanted to share that news with you all, and thanks everyone for your support.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations,
You as
Rebecca.
well, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And we're gonna want to hear all about him or her.
Yes, it's a boy. I will send pictures when I'll send out
Okay,
pictures, and I'll keep you all updated.
good.
And just to clarify for everybody, what Rebecca and I talked about is doing something similar to what Commissioner Sanu Dodney did when she took a leave of absence, which technically means that Rebecca's spot is still filled. Is still on the commission, but if we ever get to a point where we have 14 commissioners and really want to add a 15th during this year, then I will at that point reach out to Rebecca to talk about the possibility of her actually stepping down from the commission to make room for that 15th. But since we haven't actually gotten ourselves ever to full capacity, hopefully during that year, there will always be a spot there.
We should vote on that, just to make it official.
To vote on the leave of absence?
Yeah, I move that we give Commissioner Flores a 1-year leave of absence starting on January 1st, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
Great, and I I'll just add to it or amend it just to say for the record, to reflect what I just described as the leave of absence, that that conditional on it, that it be conditional on there actually being a spot open on the commission.
Okay, I accept that amendment.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion or any clarification needed on that motion? Okay, then let's do a voice vote. All commissioners in favor of granting Rebecca Flores that leave of absence, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any not in favor? Any abstentions? Great. There, so be it. Thank you, Commissioner Flores. And let's keep going on our agenda. The section 4 now, before we get to inspection reports. Section 4 are a few follow-ups from previous commission meetings and business. And the first up, 4A, is a letter to Samtrans that we discussed drafting at our last meeting. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Swope to tell us about that.
Okay, well, we found out at the last meeting that Samtrans, as a result of their reimagining Samtrans project over the last 3 years, has decided to stop Route 50, which is the only public transportation that went up to the YSC. They're going to stop it at Ralston and Alameda. And it's like 2.7 miles uphill in places with no sidewalk from Ralston and Alameda up to the Youth Services Center. And looking at the report on reimagining Samtrans, they issued that in March of this year, and it had 4 guiding principles to provide transportation services that support principles of social equity, including prioritizing service infrastructure and pilot projects in Samtrans equity priority areas. And those were defined as areas with 0 car households, lower income households, and non-white households. Now, the places that they have that they say are the equity priority areas are much of East Palo Alto, Redwood City, South San Francisco, San Bruno, Daly City, and Half Moon Bay, and also a little portion of Belmont right along Polhemus Road. So the majority of our youth either come from one of the areas that's been designated or have to get to the Youth Services Center. And so we have a letter that you can read in the packet that we intend to send both to the Samtrans Board of Directors and the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, suggesting that strongly that they extend Route 260 bus service to coincide with juvenile court calendars and juvenile hall visitation schedules. So they maybe not all of the buses go to the Youth Services Center, but enough of them go there that these parents and their youth can get to the services center to meet their appointments as required by the court. So, yeah, Paul.
I want to say thank you for the work that you put into this letter. I think that it's extremely important that we hold people accountable, especially when it comes to advocating and protecting our youth as well as their collaterals. And this was a clear sign of just disregard when it comes to not only the youth that are possibly facing the pipeline, but victims' family members that I personally am working with one that doesn't have a license. And so if she doesn't have a ride, that may be her only way to get to these services to be able to attend these proceedings. So thank you, Susan, and I really appreciated reading the letter that you put together, and very supportive of it.
Well, we need to also acknowledge Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Rasmussen, who contributed substantially to it. So
Yes, Ms. Wilson and Rasmussen, the one who uncovered this, like always advocating, always out there looking for ways to support. So yes, thank you to them as well.
So I don't know, if all the commissioners at least have had an opportunity to read the letter, we can vote on accepting it and charging our vice chair for administration with conveying it to the Board of Supervisors and to the Samtrans Board. So have all the commissioners had a chance to read it? Anyone who hasn't?
Yes, I haven't, and I would make a motion that we adopt this letter and send it to the Samtrans Board and our Board of Supervisors.
And I second that.
Yeah. We need a roll call or just a voice vote?
Well, is there any other, is there any other discussion? Does anyone have any suggested changes or edits or anything before we go to the vote? The motion's on the floor to adopt the letter as is, but. Okay, I just had one question. The letter draft that's in the agenda packet says sincerely blank, and I was just wondering, how do you suggest we actually sign it? Who's it?
You should sign it.
It should be from the chair on behalf of the commission.
Yes.
Okay, so then I guess my motion is to adopt the letter as it is in the agenda packet with that edit. All right, let's do that. I think we can, should we do a roll call vote, Susan, or can we do a voice vote on this? I think we can do a voice vote on this. All commissioners in favor of sending the letter as written in the agenda packet, and then, signed by the chair on behalf of the commission. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, great. Thank you all for all that great work, and Susan and Karen can follow up to figure out how and when to get this out as soon as we can. And the next item on our agenda, as far as taking up previous business, excuse me, let me get to that, was section 4 and B. Okay, that's me. Juvenile justice fee relief. At the commissioner offsite that we held a few months ago, a question came up as to a resolution that the commission helped get passed at the Board of Supervisors. I think it was 4 years ago, or maybe it was 29. No, it was 4 years ago, in 2018. That resolution absolved any families in the county who had children that went through the juvenile justice system, absolved them of any outstanding debt that they might have that would be associated with the fees that used to be charged to children and families that would go through the system. I think it was that earlier that year, the state legislature passed a law saying that there could be no fees going forward, but we also wanted the county to absolve families of any debts that might be outstanding from fees that had been incurred in the past. And the question came up at our offsite: are we sure that all those debts have actually been cleared, and that they might not still be impacting families in some way, like credit reports or whatnot? And so I followed up with the county, with revenue services, and with counsel for revenue services, spoke to them both in a meeting just this past month, and we did determine that there should be no reason why any of these debts at the time might still be impacting families. For one thing, credit reports don't even check for this kind of debt, which technically is considered I was told by the council that this is considered a civil judgment, these sorts of fees, and the credit reports as of 2017, because of a law that was passed then, aren't even checking for that. And second of all, if any of these outstanding debts might have impacted a family, for example, because of the debt, a lien might have been placed on property or something like that, then what would happen in that case is, if any of those liens were still outstanding, then if they needed to be collected, then the lien holder would contact the county, and the county would say there is no debt, and it would be released, basically. So I was assured by the Revenue Service and by council that any debts, first of all, in the county system, it's all zero. There is no debt. But secondly, any secondary or tertiary effects of past fee debts, there should be none. Commissioner Rasmussen, I couldn't help notice your head going back and forth about
Yeah,
credit
just
reports.
only because my family experienced that. It's been some time, but back
Yeah.
in the early 2000s. But you clarified it by saying that the law had changed, but it was going on credit
Right.
reports, and it was impacting people. But I'm so glad that that chapter in our history is officially closed, and thank you for checking up on that.
You're welcome, and I'm glad that it was brought to our attention at our offsite, and this sort of insight from lived experience to making sure that these resolutions and the intentions of the resolution are actually carried through in real life is a really important part of our work. So I did do my best and used my best investigative powers to probe and ask questions of Revenue Service and council, and I think I'm assured that there should be no knock-on effects of this. Okay, any other questions, or I should pause for which we haven't done yet, for any public comment related to that agenda item, or any other one that we've covered so far? Would any members of the public like to add anything? Okay, hearing none. Oh, wait, I do see someone. Yes, Susan Alvaro, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, you are.
Miss Alvaro, please go ahead.
Thank you. I want to get back to, if I may, the SamTrans resolution that you just
Yes.
passed, which, thank you. What an excellent thing to do. If you were to CC the County Board of Education on that, it's not like we have any power over SamTrans, but we would have a public discussion at our meeting. And I strongly suspect majority of the board would be inclined to pass our own resolution, sending another letter to those same people that you're sending your letter to, because that is critical. I had no idea they were thinking about cutting that out. And so kids who attend the Gateway School would not have transportation. Anyone going to YSC or their court dates or any of that stuff. So please CC the County Board of Ed. I can put my email in the chat for you, and then we can have a discussion about it also.
That's great. Thank you for your support on that. And I can see it directly impacting parents also who might go to a parent-teacher conference, which are held, for example. And just curious, when is the next meeting of the county office? Sorry, the Board of Education?
It's not this coming Wednesday, but the following. It's the middle of the month. I think it's the 14th.
Okay,
Wednesday.
so we'll be sure to get the letter out before then and CC you.
Okay, thank you. I'll put my email in the chat.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else like to make public comment? All right. hearing none, then I will quickly, I also added another item that I thought was timely and necessary to update everyone about and to update the public about, which is that in the past month, the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council met, and I'm a member of that because I'm the chair of this commission. And the main purpose of the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council, one of its main purposes is to talk about state funding grants that come to the county primarily for probation to use in the institutions, but also to help fund programs like FLY and other programs for the prevention of juvenile delinquency. And I thought it was worth noting that that probation has up on their website requests for proposals to use that funding. The total amount of that funding is something in the order, I think, of $2.5 million, if I'm getting that right. Anyway, it's a substantial amount of money that organizations, community-based organizations that want to provide services to youth in the community and in detention can apply for. So those requests for proposal are up on the probation website. And I believe the deadline for submissions is in early February, and starting in December, probation will start to hold information sessions to explain, how to submit RFPs and so on. So I think that's definitely worth the community knowing about, and you can find more on the probation website. Any questions about that? Great. All right. So now let's get to the main order of business that we have for tonight, which is to talk about the annual inspections that the commission organizes for facilities in the county that where youth stay for any long period of time. And we, as amended, the agenda says that we're going to hear from the team that inspected Canyon Oaks first. And then Commissioner Flores and I inspected Camp Kemp. So I'll talk about our report. And then we will do the education inspection report. And then we'll see how much time we have left. And whether or not to proceed with the YSC inspection report. So I just wanted to, and I had emailed commissioners just to let them know, but I think worth repeating a few. Well, there's a lot to cover here. These reports are long and thorough and detailed, and I think that our commissioners have done an excellent job with the detail. So in order to help us get through this discussion, just a few guidelines. One is that in the interest of time, if you have comments or edits or questions, please reserve those for anything that would actually change the substance of the report. So if you have grammatical or style or typo, if there's anything like that you noticed in the report, you can send that, and you, in this case, means the commissioners can send that to the authors of the report separately, just to let them know that, from a style or grammar or typographical standpoint, they'd suggest a change. But it'll be at the discretion of the authors whether or not to incorporate those changes. So let's reserve our discussion here to just anything that would actually change the substance of the report. And to the point that Johanna made at the beginning, it would be a disservice to us and to the public if we rushed through this. So let's make sure that we just take the time to ask questions and to get this right, because these reports really could be the foundation for a number of recommendations we might want to make in 2023 for changes in these institutions. So we will take our time and not rush through this. And I think, a common rule of engagement for meetings, but one I think is worth repeating here, is that we should assume good intent from the authors and make our suggested changes with that sort of respect in mind. A lot of effort's gone into this, so let's approach this cordially, and I think what we're going to do is have each of the inspection leads give kind of an overview and maybe a brief presentation about their report that we can then ask questions on. What I would suggest is that we actually do need to sort of take the time to go page by page in the inspection reports, because there might, and I think that would probably be the most orderly way to do it, is to go through each report. And if there are changes of substance that commissioners want to suggest, that's how we go about doing it. Okay, so let's proceed then, if there's no objection to those guidelines. Hearing none, then Commissioners Huber-Levy and Wilson, please go ahead with the Canyon Oaks inspection report.
Hi, good evening. Could you allow us to share the screen, Johanna?
I think you were just made a co-host, so you could.
Oh, Melissa is the co-host now.
Oh,
Too, but
I think I've got the document though. So what Melissa and I had done was prepare a short PowerPoint just to give the overview, as opposed to go through page by page, because we thought everyone would have had the chance to read the report in advance. But I was under the impression that was how we wanted to do it before. So
Commissioner Huber-Levy, you are a co-host, so I think you should be able to share your screen if you want to.
okay. Okay, is my screen showing?
yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is just a little overview, and we're happy to go through page by page as well if people would prefer to do that, but I'll just give this summary overview first. So Commissioner Wilson and I attended at Canyon Oaks Youth Center, which is an STRTP located near Edgewood Park hiking trails, just off of 280 at 400 Edmonds Road in Redwood City. It had opened originally in 2003 as a level 14 group home, but with the continuum of care reforms, it was converted to an STRTP and received its permanent license in 2019. Has a 12-bed capacity, serving the youth 12 to 18 with serious mental health and emotional needs. It's an alternative to psychiatric hospitalization for youth in crises.
And youth are typically there for a year, plus or minus. So it's a long-term placement.
So it's operated by behavioral health and recovery services, who work with the providers within that department. Referrals for children are from Children and Family Services, Youth Juvenile Probation, the court, and specific special ed departments in the county. Before youth are placed, they would be certified by an interagency placement review committee to confirm that they require this intensive mental health services at a residential treatment program. And the objective of the program, pardon me, a little fast there. The objective of the program is to help the youth reduce their symptoms, gain stability, to transition back to the least restrictive setting in which they can be successful. And as Melissa mentioned, youth typically stay at this facility for about a year. So we visited twice in person in September and interviewed residents and the staff. We had lunch with the residents and had an opportunity to get to know them a little bit before we did one-on-one interviews. Overall, our conclusions were that the facility is very well run and very well resourced. There are currently 7 youth in residence. They have a full-time staff or a full staff of 38, including 2 full-time therapists, the director and the program director. The 2 kind of senior people on the facility are also fully licensed therapists. There's an occupational therapist, art therapist. They've hired a co-occurring alcohol and other, what does this see? Other,
Yeah.
oh no, it should be AOD. Sorry, that's confused me there. Alcohol and other drug counseling therapist who's currently on sabbatical, but will start with the program in June 23. They have 17 full-time residential counselors and support staff for those residential counselors of 12 to 13 on average relief counselors. They also have a psychiatrist who visits twice a week for individual appointments and who's also available by telephone anytime. The facilities are bright, modern, generally well-maintained. We noticed a few things and spoke to staff about a number of things that were needing repair, nothing that impacted the daily life of residents other than laundry machines, which they know about and are working on getting more durable laundry machines because these just don't seem to live up to the level of duty that they're needed. So they need, and they're not allowed to have commercial quality machines because of the technical requirements. So but they're on it, they're working on it. It's no one's ignoring these things. We also noted that the kids were generally very happy with the facilities, but there's not a lack of food or quantity of food or availability of food, but they would have liked more input into types of food in their menus. So in our comments,
And the food is mostly all cooked on site, although some prepared foods, which were delicious, are brought in addition.
yeah, the day we had lunch, there was an opportunity to choose from a main course and a number of different sides, including this roasted cauliflower dish, which seemed quite healthy, and a farro salad with strawberries. And it was quite good, I think, in maybe contrast to some of the other facilities. So we had some comments and recommendations for this facility, even though, as I said, overall, we were very impressed with the level of care and the general functioning of the facility. We noted that there was some issues that the youth alerted us to with the grievance process, and specifically that their sense was they were not comfortable using the grievance process because of the potential for staff to, the staff attitude towards them changed, and there were different comments. I'll just.
And so we heard about a very serious incident that had not been put in a grievance form as a result of the interviews. Right.
So the 3 young people that we interviewed each raised the same issue in a slightly different way. And that's how we became aware of it. And when we questioned them as to why they didn't proceed with a grievance, that's when we found out that they had some negative connections with the process, that they felt it was better that they didn't say anything, which of course is a concern. And I'll just skip into, I'll make a comment here that we raised all of these issues with the staff at COYC, and they responded to us in writing with their written comments and how they were responding to it, which we were very impressed with. Specifically for the grievance process, they made the point that they really appreciate that youth acted on their rights to report their feelings and discomfort, and they're always open to having feedback from them, and that it was good that the youth spoke to one of the service providers who are partners in this area who are able to interact with them, that they will continue to assess this. They're looking at their grievance procedures, updating their procedures and protocols, and continue to assess it to see if changes need to be made. They've organized further specific trainings for staff from the Office of Family and Consumer Affairs happening next month. which will specifically address the grievance process and the non-retaliation requirements, and the appeal process, the review of the appeal process. And they've also reviewed the specific points that we raised. We took specific quotes from the youth to really focus our comments and concerns, and they have already raised those specific points with the staff. The other area that we commented on were the repairs and replacement of equipment. Again, it wasn't something that we had to notice and alert them to. It was something that they were welcoming our feedback and support on, pertaining to the laundry machines, an area of the outdoor recreation area, this small sport court area, which was very much in need of resurfacing because it was a very rough surface. They had already in prior years had noted that the grassy area needed to be refurbished, and that was when we were on our inspection, that was actually being installed, and an artificial turf was being installed so that area would be usable. As I mentioned, the food issue that the residents weren't really complaining. There was always soup being served at every meal, and one of the young ladies that we spoke to said, if there's nothing I like, I always like this soup. The soup's always good. And we had the sense that they had choices and they felt pretty good, but they were interested in having more input and wondered why they couldn't. So, but that is going to change. So I'll just shift to that second one too. So there is, in the last month, they signed a new memorandum of understanding with the provider of the food, which is the San Mateo Hospital. And there's going to be, they have a new dietitian who's going to be at COIC for 8 hours every 2 weeks. And one of the specific things that this person will do is a monthly nutrition assessment for each client, each resident there, and also assess each client for their individual food preferences. So they'll have that time to take into account, and within the guidelines, the nutrition guidelines and the health and safety guidelines, that they're aware of and hope to be more flexible in terms of incorporating choices. Also on the repairs and additional equipment, those procurement issues are all being addressed. And Melissa actually took this on. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Sure. I just, we found that we had quite a bit of follow-up to do in terms of advocacy on both the procurement issues and the food. And so we were making calls to various people within the county. And I think that was helpful to sort of elevate the issue.
The one thing that they really, the suggestion was that there should be a dedicated handy person for the facility, because one of the issues that slowed things down is they needed to have accredited workers, and sometimes people didn't have the right accreditation, and that slowed things down. So if they had like a dedicated person to do the small little fix-ups, that would really help. But apparently that's the person that Melissa spoke to is going to try to bring that back again, but apparently there's some resistance to doing that. And I think that's all for us now.
Nope.
Wait.
Go. So the slide that says going forward.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Thank you. Yes. Yes. So
okay. Can I do this?
Yes.
This slide?
Please.
So we talked to the 3 youth. We found out about something that hadn't been reported as a grievance. We brought those concerns to the facility. We also talked to the sheriff's office, to psychiatric emergency services, to medical, got medical records, because it was a very serious incident. And we also learned about another serious incident in our follow-up meeting. This led to them calling county council, because the youth we interviewed were not WIC 300 or 600 youth. And in fact, most youth who are there are not involved in the court at all. And so county council and Canyon Oaks have said that in the future, commissioners on these inspections will only be able to talk to youth who are not referred only by a school or a self-referred. Those youth will have to be 300 or 600 youth. There was a question of, well, is it even important to interview youth? And, Karen and I very firmly said absolutely. And I think this inspection shows that it is important to interview youth. So I see this as I don't like this, but that's the way it is. And right now we're in communication with county council to really clarify the rules of the game. But we were disappointed with this outcome and apologize.
Yeah, so these, most of the, I think almost exclusively the placements are now through special education referrals.
So that's it. Questions?
Yeah, so we really feel that.
Just to clarify on that last point, because if youth are not there because of they were placed there by the court, if they're not wards of the court, then we are not.
For foster care.
Right. So we are not supposed to question or interact with them.
Yes.
And
They also then said that they would deny us any paperwork that had any content that had to do with those youth. That would affect serious incident reports, a ton of issues. And so that's why.
And my understanding is the reason is for privacy reasons, right? Because these youth are not essentially they're not under our jurisdiction.
I believe
right?
so, but honestly, like one of the things I've requested from county council is a written statement of the logic of this, because the WIC is asking us to not only look at public institutions, which involves those non-court dependent youth, but also to report if there's a safety concern affecting any youth. And the youth we were talking to had a safety concern that if it had not been resolved in a timely manner, the WIC requires us to report. And so I feel that we should have access to all of the youth in order to assure safety. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Johanna.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for your efforts and all of your work on this. I appreciate it very much and very informative. I have a couple questions. First, I'll start with a statement. I agree completely. We need to know what's going on in there. We need to be able to talk to these children. We don't want to wait until we send our children from court over there and then find out there's a problem. We want to know that there's a problem prior to us sending our children there. So it's critical that we get access. And I think all of us are well aware of what the privacy rules are. We don't violate those in any of our reports. We, at all costs, we protect the privacy of our children. And so I encourage both of you to continue on this. We need to get in there, and I think we should be forceful about it because, like I said, we can't wait until it's too late. Do we know how it was? I may have missed at the beginning. Is the facility at capacity right now?
No, it is not. The capacity is 12, and there's 7. Well, at the time of our inspection, there were 7 youth, one of whom had left of their own accord. It's not a locked facility, but there was some question whether that youth would return or not. So there would be 7. So.
Do we happen to know, and I know this is kind of an outlier question, but do we happen to know what the cost is per youth to be in that facility?
No, but we do know that the cost is paid for by the district.
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
No, and it seems that maybe there is this larger question that seemed to be percolating around the inspections this year around costs and access to financial information, which let's put a pin in, but I think it's very important for us to understand costs in the system overall. Okay, any other questions? Paul?
Yes, I want to say thank you for the amount of work and effort that you put into this report. I 100% agree with there should be transparency when it comes to our youth, and that right now our county has moved to a more supportive community when it comes to oversight. And, you know, there's been a lot of questions in how our youth have been treated. And I think that even if our youth are being sent here from the courts, I 100% agree. We have to be assured that they're safe at all times. And this comes through oversight. And so I know there's community members here that support civilian oversight in the community. And I want to thank you because, again, if laws do restrict this, right? If there is this barrier, these are the spaces where we're supposed to put the public on notice at. Like, we occupy a very important space in the community, and the community is very supportive of the work that we're doing, and they want to be made aware. And if we don't have these conversations in these spaces, that information will never go out. So just thank you for raising that red flag, and I appreciate the work you did on this.
Another thing that I just want to say is during the inspection, I said to myself another number of times that this facility really is a model for what juvenile hall should be doing. The level of services here, that if we were to reimagine juvenile hall and simply say, let's do Canyon Oaks, we would be so far down the restorative path. Susan?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. What are they going to do about alcohol and drug therapy between now and July 23rd?
Right. So
if there are young people who need that kind of service, they can't be waiting 8 months, 8.5 months.
right.
Do we know anything about what they're going to do?
The answer on that is so we asked that question, and what they said back, and Karen, please jump in. They said that while it was unfortunate, all their therapists had practical experience with alcohol and other drugs, and that would have to do. And, you know, we sort of accepted that. But then after I read the other inspection reports, I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening with alcohol and drugs in our system, that it's being neglected.
And, you know, there's a pattern. It's the same thing in our YSC.
Right.
No drug and alcohol programs there. It's just one of these things that are, you know, our underserved kids continue to be dealt with, is that underserved attitude from adults, right? This is why transparency and oversight's needed. Thank you, Melissa.
Sure. So I don't know, you know, that we're going to have to talk about what to do about that. And in our inspection, we didn't feel like we knew
what
to do.
This in the adult reentry program that St. Vincent de Paul runs, practically every woman who comes through there has an alcohol and or drug problem, and they provide them with daily 5 days a week therapy for that problem. And I don't know that it would be different with youth, but I think almost certainly most youth who get into trouble have probably run into misuse of alcohol and other drugs. So I think that's a very important thing for us to look at.
Should we, do you think we should amend our report under recommendations to call that out?
I think maybe we can do a follow-up question to the facility and just say that this has come up in our meeting and from our review of other inspections, that we're concerned that this is something that's not being appropriately addressed with this population, and just ask the question again.
And maybe we're going to go to BHRS as a group and talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, that's
okay.
Give them the opportunity, if something has happened in the interim, that they've put something in place. I recall something about online access too, but that's obviously.
Yeah, there isn't. You're on, I think it's page 14. It says there's a section about substance abuse counseling and what they're doing to sort of make up for it in the meantime. But yeah. I'll just quickly jump in to note that this is also a concern at Camp Kemp. Star Vista used to provide AOD counseling. They're not there now, and they do have AA come on occasionally, but that's different than a licensed therapist. And this seems to be a theme that as a commission as a whole, we might want to follow up on in the new year. So Whether you
Because-
want to add something to your report or not, I think as a commission, this is
It
something
served its purpose in flagging it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I see that Wesley's got his hand up, but I just wanted to make a quick comment on the access issue too, that, giving the staff the benefit of the doubt, they are, highly trained, very sensitive professionals who are dealing with a high need group who have significant emotional and social and mental disturbance. So I think that there's, in terms of access to youth, there was a bit of a reaction to having untrained people speaking directly to youth. And I just raised this because it was something that I perceived that might have been spurring on their hesitancy to let us have access. But I would say that I think that the solution to that is a dialogue about it, and providing us with some training if there's things that we should be aware of when we have these conversations with this group, this population.
I also think it's important just to put on public record that the facility did not allow our commissioners under age 18 to participate in these inspections. And that's been clarified so that going forward, our younger commissioners will be there. So
And
Wesley?
this was the first year too, because in the past we had younger commissioners come in. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to,
Commissioner Swope, you still have your hand up. Did you have more questions?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I have a comment that you talked about staff may need some more training. And I think they need to have some in accepting and dealing with criticism as part of their trauma-informed training. That's just a comment. And I don't understand why, if regular home type washers and dryers keep breaking down on them, why can't they have commercial washers and dryers? And the other thing that I saw on page 15, that visitation logs are only kept for a week. I would think that they should hold on to them for longer than that. So those are just I don't know if you have any.
The visitation logs are not required by law. So
Yeah.
we didn't feel like we could make a stink about that. The commercial washing machine, I actually did quite a bit of research on this and ended up recommending to them a residential washing machine of a commercial type. The issue is that commercial machines require bolting, they require different water outlet, they require different energy, electricity, they require different venting. I don't know what the issue is, but I believe it is something kind of built into the architecture that's the limiter.
So their facility can't support it.
Right.
Okay.
That's my understanding. I dug deep into washer and dryers.
Commissioner Liu, you've had your hand
Yeah.
up.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that the Behavioral Health Commission has an AOD standing committee. So it might be helpful for us as a commission to go visit or maybe reach out to some of the committee members of that. So that might be a nice next step for us.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Monroe, thank you for flagging the part in the report that we specifically dealt with this, because what the answer from COYC was is that typically they have a half-time alcohol and other drug counselor on staff, but currently it is integrated with their individual counseling therapy, and there's the Health Right 360 course online. If youth in residence are in need of it, they do bring AA groups on site, and youth are allowed to attend sessions with an outside group. So they're aware that this is important, but yeah, we still may want to raise this as something that we're more concerned about.
Commissioner Rasmussen.
Two quick comments. The first one is going back to speaking with the youth and discussing and about the possibility that, we may not be trained to have those conversations. And I just want to put out there that when we go into an inspection and to the inspection, we have these predetermined questions. So it's not like we're veering off into these different directions. I mean, we could provide the facility with those questions in advance. I mean, they're very specific. They go into, looking for very specific information. So that would be something I would use in that counter argument. And I would also say, because we are coming out of a pandemic, I think just for COVID-19 tracing purposes, they should keep those visitor logs for longer than 7 days.
That's a great point.
Are there any other commissioners who have suggested changes or clarifying questions about the report? I just want to remind everyone that our goal here is to actually vote on and adopt this report that as written, that's in the agenda packet. So before we do that, if there's anything that any commissioner feels strongly needs to be changed in the report, now's the time to speak up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Any commissioners have any other questions or suggested changes? Okay, if there aren't any others, then I did have just a couple of questions that may not warrant changes, but to your point, Melissa, that overall Canyon Oaks there are many elements of the program that are very supportive and therapeutic and you know, that
And great.
and great, right? That in theory we'd like to see in other facilities.
Yeah.
So to that point, there were actually a couple of themes that came up that I found interesting because like the AOD question, they're also reflected in the other institutions. One was it was on page I think it is page 8. You talked about the shifts and the number. You're talking about staffing and shifts. One question I had is, do you know if staff there are working on 4-10 shifts or 5-8 shifts? In other words, do they work 4 days of 10 hours or 5 days of 8 hours? Do you know?
No.
Okay, because that came up in both the YSC inspection and also the Camp Kemp inspection, that there had been a change in the last couple of years where instead of working 4 days of 10 hours, many staff are working 5 days of 8 hours, and for reasons I won't go into here, the 4-10 is a more optimal for staff especially. So anyway, okay, I was just curious if you knew the answer to that. And then you said in your overview that most of the food, and this food is definitely a big theme at the other institutions as well, but that most of the food is prepared on site. But in the report itself, on page 12, it to me sounded like it was prepared somewhere else, like at the hospital and then delivered. Page 12 of the report really made it sound like that was the case. So I just wanted to clarify, like,
Yeah, it's a mix.
Go ahead.
It's a mix. They do have like some things that are more prepared. We were there at lunch, so it seemed like I think there was more of a putting things together at lunch. They had the cauliflower might have been pre-cooked already, but then he roasted it with some onions. And
when you say he, you're talking about a staff member or a
chef.
There's a
There's
chef.
an actual chef there.
Yeah, there's a chef. They put an order in with Cisco. Cisco delivers raw groceries. And then there's some supplemental food items coming
So
from.
there's a variety of deliveries. Some of it's raw, some of it's pre-prepared, but then it's all kind of like produced in the kitchen.
Yeah, but it's all transported first to the San Mateo Medical Center and then delivered on to COYC. But there seems to be the cook chef who's there is very well liked, and
right. That's what I remember from because I was on that inspection team a couple of years ago, I think. Yeah.
And he seems to enjoy his job. In fact, we heard that he had retired but stayed on because he liked doing this. And
so I think as you'll see when we get to the Camp Kemp report and also the YSC report, like this is like AOD that we just flag as something to really follow up on next year. I think food is really important for us to follow up on next year, and I'll get to that in the Camp Kemp.
And what a contrast that this facility.
This seems like the way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, this facility has a dedicated. They didn't before. They just had a dietitian who was in charge of all other medical facilities and such, and they felt that that wasn't working out. So they had this MOU. So now there's this dedicated dietitian who's coming every 2 weeks
Yeah.
to spend this time, which is pretty great.
Okay, great. All right, so let's keep us moving along, and those are
Thank
just
you for your
questions.
comments.
Yeah,
Thank you very
comments and
much.
questions. But again, like I said, I don't think that changes the actual substance, or I don't have any suggested edits. Those I thought were just worth bringing up. And if there are no other comments or clarifying questions or suggestions for edits to the actual report from commissioners, and hearing none, I will at this point call for public comment. If there are any members of the public that want to comment on the report or have any comments related to this topic that they'd like to bring to our attention, now's the time. Okay, so then I think it's time to make a motion to adopt the report as attached in the agenda packet. Is there a motion to adopt the report?
I move to adopt the report.
And Susan, I think we don't need a second since we have a group of people that are bringing this forward, right? Yeah,
It's a committee.
it's a committee, exactly.
It's
All
more
right,
than one.
very good. All right, so the motion on the floor is to adopt the
Approved.
report, sorry, to approve the report as written and attached in the agenda packet. Is there any further discussion by commissioners on that? All right, let's, I think we can do this with a voice vote. All commissioners in favor of adopting the report provided by the Canyon Oaks inspection team that is attached in the agenda, say aye.
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 Anyone not approve or abstain? All right, it's adopted unanimously. Thank you very much, Canyon Oaks inspection team.
Our pleasure.
Terrific. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the Camp Kemp inspection report. And Commissioner Flores and I conducted the inspection of Camp Kemp, and I did not prepare a PowerPoint presentation. Didn't have time to pull that together, and so I think what I'm going to do is just give a high-level overview, and then I would like to share my screen to show the actual report, the kind of summary and recommendation section. Commissioner Rasmussen, am I a co-host? Okay, great, thank you. And Commissioner Flores, please jump in as needed. But I guess I'll proceed with the quick overview, which is that I think comments were made about Canyon Oaks that there are a lot of elements in the program there, in the facility there, that are therapeutic and supportive. It's a home-like environment. Overall, the residents seem happy, satisfied with it, and get along well with the staff. All of that is true of Camp Kemp as well. For people that don't know, Camp Kemp is a facility that is basically across the parking lot from Juvenile Hall and Juvenile Court, and it is a smaller home-like dorms, for residential area, facility for girls who are admitted to Juvenile Hall, and they need to spend a relatively short period of time in Juvenile Hall and meet certain conditions, and then they're able to enroll in Camp Kemp and the program. They tend to stay for about 6 months, and there is a structured program there designed to help them with their development and to get them ready to return to the community. And in fact, this is something I noted in the, and this is just an example of part of the program there. The final stage of rehabilitation for girls that go through Camp Kemp is something called the Girls Empowerment Program. It's where girls who had been living, and sorry, I just want to take a step back. It's called the Girls Empowerment Program, and I keep referring to girls, but I want to be clear that I think the appropriate term is youth, and that we have had transgender youth there recently, actually. And so let me refer to the residents as the youth. Youth sometimes in the fourth stage of the program, or sorry, they always in the fourth stage is the empowerment program, where they return home to live, but then come back to Camp Kemp for school. And there is something called respite, which is open to youth who are in that stage of the program, where if they feel unsafe at home or in their community, they are able to call camp and come back and live at Camp Kemp. And there are youth that go through the program who do take advantage of that. And just the fact that that exists, I think, is a pretty remarkable example of why Camp Kemp is doing a good job of supporting the development of the youth that go through the program. So overall, definitely quite a bit of praise for Camp Kemp, and I think we called it in our report a model program in a number of ways. Now that said, there are also opportunities for improvement, and so to that end, I'm going to share my screen there. Can everyone see the recommendations section? Okay, good. So the to take a step back, I think one of the root issues that a number of our facilities are dealing with is the sort of irony of there being a smaller number of youth in the facilities. So, even though the YSC has a capacity for 180, the population is consistently under 20. Even though Camp Kemp has a capacity for, sorry, I'm forgetting exactly what it was, but I think it's something around like 30. Last winter, there were no residents at Camp Kemp. This is partly because of COVID, but it's also just because of overall declining numbers of youth in our system. And ironically, that puts pressure on staffing and budgeting to the point where there are some aspects of the program that Camp Kemp can't support, or some aspects of the program as designed, which is a good design, but the Camp Kemp cannot support. So for example, for a couple of years now, we've noted that residents at Camp Kemp return to Juvenile Hall to sleep at night in the jail cells there, which is, contrary to the purpose of Camp Kemp, which is to have a dorm-like setting. Likewise, the food program that we talked about at Canyon Oaks, where you've got a chef and you've got food that's delivered and prepared there, cannot be sustained at Juvenile Hall or Camp Kemp because essentially of budgeting and staffing reasons. And so as a result, the food that is delivered from the county jail that is prepared by the sheriff's department is really not popular at all. And I've had lunch with the youth at Camp Kemp, and it just does not seem that palatable. And as one of the staff members at Camp Kemp said to me, there is nothing more fundamental to the to raising teenagers, whether they're at Kemp or in your home, than providing good food. And it makes it hard for them to make progress on anything else if you don't have that good food. So these are examples, I think, of issues that come from this, again, like I said, the essential irony of us the county succeeding and having not very many youth in these institutions, but as a result, also staffing and budgeting is cut below what maybe is a threshold level that we need in order to maintain the programs as designed, to be therapeutic and supportive. So that is essentially where the most important recommendations that we have come from is, and to be more specific here, the sort of highest priority recommendations that we have from Kemp are: one, we really need to change the meals, and how we figure out how that is done. If there's something like Canyon Oaks, great, but we can't keep giving the same food that we have been to youth, in our opinion. The second is that there are other programs like AOD, rape trauma services, that are not available today at Kemp and that are very much needed, especially for these are two issue areas that the staff pointed out are definitely needed for the residents that do come to Kemp. These are two areas that are very much needed, and they're not currently operating. So those are things that we need. And then the third sort of priority recommendation is if we need to increase staffing, if the budget needs to be produced for probation to increase staffing so that residents of Kemp can sleep at Kemp and not go to juvenile hall, we recommend that the county do that. So those are our sort of most important recommendations. There are some other recommendations that we had around, for example, culturally appropriate and interesting to the residents, libraries in the library. That seems like something that's doable. There are some facility issues that could be addressed, and it does seem that Kemp is going to start bringing back some of the sort of larger social gatherings that they used to have, which are really helpful to residents and staff. So I'll leave the other recommendations for you to have read in the report, hopefully. But I think the main point that I wanted to make is that there are some really critical areas of the Kemp program that the Kemp program was designed for, that the county and probation are unable to support, again, because of staffing, and I think because of the root issue is staffing and budgeting issues. And I believe that our commission should advocate strongly in the first quarter of next year to restore, or to ask the county to provide the support that probation needs,
Right.
in order to do that. And so I will pause there. I see hands up, but also I want to give Commissioner Flores the floor also, if there's anything critical that I didn't cover high level that you want to add.
I think you covered it all. Yeah, just highlighting the more urgent matters about budget cuts and staffing and the food issues. But I did want to highlight that there was one youth in particular who only spoke Spanish that I interviewed. And they are doing a really good job with her, with translating and providing materials and having a translator for her. She said she felt safe. She said she felt like she was supported and understood everything. So I was really pleased to hear that from her. So I just wanted to highlight that they are taking care of our youth who don't necessarily speak English. That was good. Thank you.
And riffing off of that, I will say that I think one thing I did not mention at the beginning when I was praising Camp Kemp is that I really want to commend the staff there that go above and beyond. Where there are these say budget shortfalls so that they're unable to support certain programs, the staff actually go out themselves and try to figure out other things that that they can do, or that, for example, they find with Camp Kemp, if youth are enrolled in Camp Kemp, they do have some flexibility to go out into the community for certain programs. So, for example, there are residents at Camp Kemp that are enrolled in a boxing class that they take them out to, and that's an example of something that the staff just found on their own. So they really do a great job. I think that Commissioner Wilson got her hand up first. So Commissioner Wilson.
Great report. Thank you. I just wanted to note, the food issue and the sleeping issue is now at least 2 years ongoing.
Yeah.
And Monroe, I want to echo what you said, which is we need to elevate this issue. It is critically important. We made a change this year for the first time in our inspection reports, asking for a response to inspections, the 45 days to comment. And I feel that's going to help us then to make some progress, because it's going to be able to give the facility a formal opportunity to respond and then go to the Board of Supervisors and say, and figure it out, right? So I just feel like we can be an advocate for probation and for what's going on and for the kids. And I just feel strongly that we can't let another year pass, because we were wrong, in my opinion, for the last year to have gone forward without these food issues and sleeping issues being changed.
Right. Yeah, and to your point, Commissioner Wilson, I think it's on us to go advocate on probation's behalf so that they have the support they need for staffing and budgeting. Commissioner Swope.
Just so we know, the food issue predates it being supplied by the Sheriff's Department. They've been complaining about the food for a long time, and I can attest from having had lunches and dinners with them that they have reason to complain. And when we talk to the dietitian about it, she says, well, they're given what they need in terms of what's required for their age group in terms of the nutrients and the calories. And I said, but if they won't eat it, it isn't doing them any good. And I know, at least when I used to go in on Sundays for services, there was a lot of food that was being thrown out. Yeah. And food that's thrown out is
its own issue, yes. And that's
criminal.
Still the case. Yeah.
So I think there has to be some way that we can give those children food that they need for their growth but they can also enjoy. We're not gonna give them, gourmet food, but food that is palatable and that is suitable for their cultural background.
I didn't put it this way in the report, but it just, in a region of the country that is famous for corporations that provide fantastic food to employees, because they want those employees to be productive and particularly like intellectually productive and emotionally, happy at work. Like, this is just a great example of how important food is. Anyway,
that's a good point. I wonder if we couldn't get one of the,
That's interesting. That's an interesting idea.
That is interesting.
It wasn't necessarily where I was going with the funding, but that's an interesting idea. But anyway, that's something I think we'll take up in the new year, because it's a consistent theme across all of these facilities. Commissioner Swope, did you have anything other than the food?
I noticed that they are taking care of animals. Are there animals other than the chickens? I'm really happy to know that they're taking care of the chickens, because they were at Camp Glenwood, and one of the things the boys there enjoyed the most was taking care of the chickens. But I'm wondering, it says they only get to take care of them on the weekends. Who feeds them the rest of the week? Why can't they be taking care of them all week long?
I think that the answer to that is that one is that staff like help care for the chickens during the week, and the second part of the question is that just given the schedules for youth during the week between school and exercise and evening programming and so forth, I think they just don't have as much time and flexibility to do it. But it is definitely a highlight for them on the weekends, and something that I know that the residents there enjoy.
Yeah, it's good for young people to be taking care of animals.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Okay, Commissioner Bocanegra.
Yes, I had a question. We know we have a contract with Sonoma County where they send their female youth to our camp for programming. Do we know what the numbers are, Sonoma youth graduates to San Mateo County graduates for this last year? Just curious to see who's utilizing this facility the most.
I think right now Sonoma
numbers-
County is utilizing it right, Monroe? Am I wrong about that?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I think Sonoma County has the most residents at Camp, but I'm not positive.
I think that when we were there, there were how many? 7 residents, if even that, and 2 had been from Sonoma, and there were 2 more from Sonoma coming. So we can, Paul, to answer your question, we only had the current count. We didn't get data for the entire year of how many came from Sonoma. But we do know. I mean, what I think I noted this in the report, but there was a judge in Sonoma County who was just a big fan of Camp Kemp, and so also I think it's worth noting that the youth from Sonoma that were there gave us positive reviews of being there. They speak highly of the program itself, and definitely compared to the juvenile hall in Sonoma, which would have been their alternative, they were happy to be at Kemp. But anyway, that judge has since moved to Santa Clara, which is one reason why, or sorry, Santa Cruz, which is one reason why probation was pursuing a contract with Santa Cruz as well, because the judge is just a fan of it, and not having that kind of program in their own county, they want to take advantage of ours.
Yes, and we know that there was a lot of millions of dollars issued out so they could reimagine the way they treat youth. And I think realignment supports natural environments. So if they're going to incarcerate their youth, they should also be in the business of providing them treatment. And the only reason I asked that, I would just like on the record, so San Mateo County residents know that their taxpayer dollars are supporting a county who doesn't invest in their youth. And I believe that they should be made aware of that information. The other thing I just wanted to point out, and I wanted to make a comment, that the irony that the female youth are good enough to share the food with the sheriff's office alongside of the male youth at the YSC, but they're not good enough to share the same programs. And I'm curious to know if in this recommendation, because right now we have secure track long-term youth that will be living in cages for up to 7 to 8 years there at our YSC, if we are recommending that this be opened up to our male youth as well on a recommendation, as well as step down, right? There should be no difference in treatment, right? If they can share the food, they should be able to share the space, not only sleeping in cages, but also boys sleeping at camp. They deserve the same treatment. So that's what I just wanted to put out there. I'm not sure if we can make an addition or amend that, but I think that it's important that we take this opportunity now to recommend to probation that they open this up to the youth, the male youth as well, that we should not be treating youth any differently from just because of gender. And I think that that is reverse discrimination. And I think that we should definitely be recommending that, especially if kids are going to be in these cages for up to 7 and 8 years in our county.
Yeah, Paul. So we are not recommending that, and not because we're necessarily opposed to it, but because it's not something that that we inquired about or really investigated as part of our inspection. I think I agree with you that there is disparity and really, frankly, an equity issue, in my opinion, that in our county that female youth have the option to go to something like Camp Kemp, which is so much better for them than staying in juvenile hall, but boys do not. I think that's a real issue, and I'm not sure if the solution is for male youth to go to Camp Kemp, because Kemp was designed specifically to be a program, for girls, and so that might require some redesign, or I don't know, security issues.
It was also designed to provide AOD services.
Right.
So I think that they can make those adjustments arbitrarily whenever they want. So it wouldn't be too hard.
I agree with you. It's something we ought to really look into in the new year, but it's not something that that we're prepared to add to the report at this point.
Yeah, I think we did have a discussion around whether like if this is something that they could pursue in the future, expanding to YSC or to the boys, and I believe they said that yes, but that's not something that's being discussed at the moment. But I think I recall, I don't know if you recall that conversation, Monroe. I forget who we were talking to, but we did ask about like respite, and like kind of this program really is a model for what YSC can really be like for everyone. And so I think we did have some discussion around it, but totally something that we can work on in the years to come. I think with everything that we're working on now, I think it's something that we can incorporate. So a lot of work to be done, but I think we're on the right path.
Paul, your hand's still up. Did you have other questions or comments? Oh, no, it's down now.
No.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Commissioner Rasmussen.
Thank you so much for this very thorough report. I just have a couple comments. I just want to follow up on what Paul said. In our YSC inspection, it did come up. We do have secure track. We have 8 young men currently who are in the pipeline to secure track. Far more than we do females at Camp Kemp. We have an urgent need. And so this is something that we are going to need to look at in the next year. We have to do something. And staff is telling me, Johanna, we are giving one-on-one care to out-of-county kids, but we are not taking care of our own children from our own county. And so that needs to go on the record. I'm for caring for all kids, but we need to prioritize our children first. And so I just want to put that on the record, that there is conversations happening at YSC, that this is needed specifically for our secure track youth. I also wanted to point out that ever since I joined the commission, I've been working solo on this food issue. I've been working tirelessly. I've been told to be quiet on numerous occasions, but I continue to fight. So whoever wants to join me in this effort to get this food figured out, I don't think it's difficult. At most, we average, if you put both facilities together on a high day, that's only 30 meals. I could make 30 meals 3 times a day. That's not difficult. So this doesn't involve like a bunch of, people to figure this out. We just need someone to cook in the kitchen. And I think we can get that done.
If I can make a comment, it's easier said than done once you enter a bureaucracy. And I guess one of the questions I have, and Jehan's not here, Melanie, you might be able to answer it, is who should we be having this conversation with? Because it may be beyond something Jehan can control. Should we be having it with Chief King? Should we be having it with Michelle Kozel? Like, what's the right point? Who's the right person who actually has the ability to represent probation fully?
Commissioner Wilson, just in the interest of time to get these reports adopted, since that's what we're doing here, I want to say let's hold that follow-up item for January, if you don't mind. Yeah, but we can find that out offline.
And I do want to get
okay, so can I just make my last comment then would be, could we include the recommendation to change the name of the girls empowerment program to the youth empowerment program, so it complies with the county's, gender language. Can we make that recommendation, please?
I like that.
Yeah, I think we can add that to the report. And I also wanted to.
I think we should probably, I think that's probably something we need to make a motion to vote on.
Yeah. I also wanted to comment that we do have in our report that because you made a few comments about taking care of our youth, and there was a concern from BHRS that and also from the staff that they don't have trauma, they're not receiving trauma informed training, and so I just wanted to point that out, that we did include that in our report, that was something that
was a recommendation. Yeah.
a recommendation.
I also saw in the YSC report.
And why, do you know why that is? No.
Without having investigated this in detail, my impression is that when Title 15 came out, there were trainings rolled out to comply with that and to inform teams about best practices for trauma-informed care, and that some of those best practices and theories have been incorporated into other trainings. ISM Mayberry at Camp Kemp did point out to me a number of other trainings that incorporate those concepts, but just that there haven't been an explicit, there haven't been follow-up explicit trainings on trauma and best practices for trauma-informed care, as far as we could tell. So I think it's a recommendation definitely worth following up on, but again, like I said, to me it was important, but didn't rise to one of the most important in our report. Are there any other? Oh, Commissioner Huber-Levy, you did have your hand up, but you're not anymore.
I'm okay. I think I can incorporate that in the future discussion.
Okay, sounds good. Paul, you have your hand up again.
In the interest of time, I'll be very quick. You said that the Sonoma judge who loved our program at Camp Kemp moved to Santa Cruz. Can we be sure now that every Sonoma girl we are receiving is from Sonoma County and not coming from Santa Cruz? Because Santa Cruz just entered into a contract with Sonoma County, and we just told Santa Cruz no at the Board of Supervisors meeting, which they supported no. So I just would like to put on the record that we should follow up to find out if we are now housing Santa Cruz girls for $150 after the Board of Supervisors said no to this. The community came out and said no. So that's something I'd like to put on the record here, that we should probably follow up to make sure these girls are coming from Sonoma County and not being circumvented like musical chairs.
I can confirm for you that there are no girls from Santa Cruz at Camp Kemp right now, for sure. Well, we verified, where the youth are from. In fact, I think that's in our report, and they are either residents of San Mateo County or Sonoma County. All right, since it is almost 7:10, I think that we need to get to a motion to adopt this report, and or Johanna, I think, suggested maybe that we amend it to add a recommendation that the Girls Empowerment Program be renamed Youth Empowerment Program. Johanna, do you want to articulate that motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2022 annual inspection of Camp Kemp with the additional recommendation that the Girls Empowerment Program be renamed the Youth Empowerment Program.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Does anyone have any further discussion about that motion? And I know this is out of order, Commissioner Swope, but not in the, I'm not following the right order, but I did intend to call for public comment on the Camp Kemp inspection report, which we usually do before we adopt the report. So I apologize for that, but maybe if we could just put the motion on hold for a second. I do want to make sure that if there are members of the public that want to say anything about Camp Kemp or the inspection report, that you have an opportunity.
It is proper to have discussion after the motion has been made.
Right, isn't the discussion usually, anyway, we'll include discussion from commissioners, and if there's any public comment, please, you're welcome to make it now.
Sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
That's
But-
all right.
This is Michelle with the Pulse. I just want to say thank you guys very much for bringing up, for doing what you guys do. It's very much appreciated, I'm sure, by everyone in the community and myself. And thank you for doing these inspections. I just wanted to ask, and I know you guys can't really respond to me during public comment, but, and yes, it is before the motion. But the breakdown of, do you guys do breakdowns of the cost? I didn't notice that there was a breakdown of the cost of these camps and juvenile halls associated with these costs or with these camps. So I'm just wondering if you guys ever do that so that the public or the officials that you send these to, I don't know if you guys send these to the county or whatever, but I'm just wondering if you guys do that so that everyone can kind of see how much you know, everyone's paying for
It's-
this.
Michelle, it is something that what I believe Commissioner Rasmussen added to the inspection forms this year is something to ask for each of the facilities was a budget. And in our case in Camp Kemp, we asked for it, but we're unable to get it. And I think that's true of the YSC as well, which we'll get to in the next meeting. But that breakdown is not something that's publicly available. There are budgets for probation that are, on the county website, but it doesn't go down to the detail of each institution.
It
So
seems like we should do a Freedom of Information Act.
it's something that we could look into next year. Yeah, and I think, just maybe a quick, very, very quick comment, which is, I said earlier that we should advocate to support the programs so that they have the resources they need for things like staffing at Camp Kemp, so that youth do not need to go sleep at juvenile hall. That might require some additional funding or reallocation of funding that's going to something else. I don't know, but in relation to that, I would recommend that next year the commission look further into that, but we were not able to obtain that this year and as part of these reports. Okay, thank you for that comment. I'm gonna, before our official time hits, I'm going to call for a vote on the motion that's on the floor to adopt the Camp Kemp report with the additional recommendation that the Girls Empowerment Program be renamed the Youth Empowerment Program. All commissioners in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the report is adopted. Thank you very much. And I would make a motion that we extend our meeting time just by 5 minutes so that we can discuss an additional meeting in December so we can get to the education NYSC reports, because we haven't had time in our 2 hours tonight to get to them. Would anyone like to second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we're just gonna go to 7:20 and maybe talk about when we might be able to, or how we can arrange for another meeting. So what I would propose is that we find one evening in the next 2 weeks, I would say, before holidays come upon us, or people might go out of town, where we could have one more meeting of the JJDPC this year in order to finish this business of talking about the education and YSC inspection reports. I think we will be able to get that done in 90 minutes or less. I don't think we'll need a full 2 hours. I think we could need more than an hour. And what I would propose is that we agree now that we will have one more meeting, and that we can, I think this is one of those things that the Brown Act allows us to do some coordination with offline in order to discuss, a day and in the evening when we can do this. And of course, this would be something that we have to agendize and let the public know about. And we should do that with sufficient notice for the public to be able to attend that meeting. So I guess my suggestion is that we coordinate offline, that we have one more meeting in the first 2 weeks of December. Anyone opposed to that idea, or
So
any
you're gonna do it-
discussion?
You're gonna do a doodle or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I'll figure that out.
So will this be a special meeting just for this topic?
Yes.
It will be a meeting just for this topic, yes. But there's nothing in our operating policies that prevents us from having a meeting in December, or from even having 2 meetings per month. And so technically, Wesley, it's not a special meeting, it's just an additional meeting of the commission.
We need to schedule it when it can be properly publicized.
Yeah, which is why I think that we're probably looking at the second week of December. But just if anyone has any issues with second week of December, maybe you can let me know now. But I think the best way to handle this is probably just an offline doodle or something like that. But we will get to this. Like I said, and I think several people have said, these reports are thorough, they're detailed, they have lots of meaningful recommendations. This is some of the most important work that the commission does. And I think that the quality of the reports this year really sets us up for a more active 2023 in bringing these recommendations to the Board of Supervisors to improve these facilities. So I think this is important stuff, and one more meeting to get it all done. Okay, I'm not hearing any objection. I will be in touch with commissioners to coordinate that, and we will give the public sufficient notice, and we will see you again sometime in December, TBD, probably second week of December. Sound good? Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
With that-
Thank you, everyone.
with
Hannah,
that-
you were right.